All right, everyone, let's get started. Thank you for joining. Once again, Sophia has the nerve to be on vacation, so you guys are stuck with me as your MC. Um, but let's get started. We got a couple topics to go over, and then I think we'll have a fair bit of time for for Q&A at the end of the session. Just a reminder is you are in Semantic Kernel's US and EMEA office hours, which are every week from 8 till 9 a.m. We also host monthly APAC office hours from 4 to 5 p.m. I know this is probably the wrong venue for that, but I think we are looking at changing the time of the APAC hours to be a little bit later in the day. If that is interesting to you, please let me know in the chat, and also survey the APAC office hours as well, to see if that's something that's useful to them. I know it's a little bit early in some places. Still not a great time to be able to join the two different office hours. So we will try and do that. Maybe not for the next one, but for the one after. As far as releases go, release this week of the .NET version of Semantic Kernel with some fixes to a fix to the function parameters and arguments type handling, and then some changes for MCP, which I think we'll get to. Sergey is going to do a demo and talk about some of the new stuff we're doing around MCP. And then I think Roger also has some stuff he wants to show based on a blog post that we're about to publish. You may have seen there haven't been too many blog posts this week. That's mostly my fault, not being able to push them out. We had an internal conference last week here at Microsoft with a lot of Microsoft MVPs coming, and that kept me pretty busy. But I think what we'll do maybe next week or the week after is we'll do like a reprise of that session, which had a lot of nice demos and content of things you can do with Semantic Kernel and things that are coming up and that are in preview now. So we will do that. We'll probably do that next week or the week after. Okay. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Sergey, do you want to get started with MCP?
Yes, sure. I'm sharing my screen. Yes, hopefully you can see it. So MCP, this is a second presentation of MCP in Semantic Kernel, and this time we are going to show you how you can build MCP server powered by Semantic Kernel. Let me give you a few words about what MCP is. It's according to definition is open protocol that standardizes how application provide context to LLM. And MCP standardizes the connection between AI models and various data sources and tools. And at the moment, there is Model Context Protocol .NET SDK that is powering this example, and that we are using in order to implement MCP client-server architecture. And you may wonder, why would you use, for example, Semantic Kernel to build MCP server if you could use that library? And there could be a few reasons for that. First one is interoperability. That, for example, if you build a ton of Semantic Kernel plugins over the time, and you want to reuse those plugins in non-Semantic Kernel client application, or, for example, you would like to use those plugins in application written on a Python or in a different language, while the plugins themselves written in .NET C#. That's one reason. Second reason why you may decide to use Semantic Kernel in order to implement MCP server could be content safety. Semantic Kernel provides a nice feature called filters that allows you to intercept all function calls. And as soon as that function call is intercepted, you can iterate over all the arguments of the function. You can get the function metadata like function name and description, and you can even decide what to do with that function call, whether to proceed with the function call or terminate, depending on your heuristic in that filter. And the another reason could be just observability. So, for example, you may already have your telemetry source where all your telemetry from all your apps is going to, and some of your apps may already use Semantic Kernel, and like you have dashboards and like query that like getting some data from Semantic Kernel, and you would like to emit the same metrics. Traces and logs from the MCP server. So you can consider powering that MCP server by using Semantic Kernel. All right, now let's look at the code of the MCP server. So here on the screen, you see two tools that I'm going to demonstrate. First one is Daytime Utils tool, which basically it's a plugin, Semantic Kernel plugin. All of you should be familiar with this already. And that daytime plugin export get current daytime UTC. It's a very simple one that returning current daemon UTC as a string. And the second plugin is weather utils, which give us weather for specified city and time. And again, as you see, it's like very primitive plugin, and like which can be replaced by mod one that will go to your actual service, and that would return you the current weather for the city and the time. Now you can see the like I don't know, like 10 or 12 lines of code that basically that's code that you need to write in order to implement an MCP server. So at the beginning, you see 3 lines. Again, you should be familiar with it already. It's just like we are creating kernel builder. We are importing the plugins, which I've showed a second ago. Then we're creating a builder. And then we are creating host. Then we're adding MCP server to the host. Then we enabling the STD or transport. And then the most important line is we are registering semantic kernel plugins, which are going to be exposed as MCP tools. So, and the way we are doing it, we've created a this tools extension method that iterates over all the functions of all semantic kernel plugins and add them as AI functions to the service collection, which is later exposed by MCP, by the MCP server. So that's it about the server. Let's look at the code that you'll have to write in order to connect that server. So this is how you create MCP client, where you need to provide all required information about the MCP server. Plus, the most important thing, you need to point that MCP client to the executable of the server, which is MCP server exe file. After you've created the client, we need to access list of tools provided by the server by running this get AI functions async method. And actually need to be refreshed because the name has rename, but anyway, I'll do it later. And then what you need to do is you need to import those MCP tools as kernel function. And again, so it's like one-liner, which is very simple. So we're iterating over all the tools and registering them as functions for the tools plugin. And if we're able to run the code, which is very simple here, we are basically running a prompt saying what is likely color of the sky in the Boston today. And we are sending that prompt to LLM together with the get current time and get current weather functions. And LLM seeing that it has 2 functions and it was asked about the likely color of the sky in Boston today. First, it's going to call get current time in order just to understand what day today is. And the second, it's going to grab the Boston as a location, daytime returning by the first function, and call the second function get weather. And as a result, it should give us the likely color of the sky in Boston today is gray. Yep, that should be it. So as simple as that. Yeah, as you could see, just like it's very easy to write MCP server and powered and basically import the semantic kernel plugins as MCP tools. And on the other side, on the client side, it's same. It's very easy to get MCP tools and import them as semantic kernel plugins. I think that's it about the demo. So I'm open for questions. I see you, Evgeny, have a hand up.
Thank you. It's when you were presenting, I was screenshotting and posting in our local channels saying it's being worked on, it's already being done, folks, calm down, soon it's coming, because people are interested in exactly this functionality. The question, though, that came from Europe, from our little group, 50 people, when can we expect the Python version of the same? Because majority of the folks here, unfortunately, on the Python, just one of the local peculiarities, I guess.
I know that yesterday I was contacted regarding the Python version of it, and I know that we plan to start working on it. I'm not sure about the timeline. I think Mark or Ben may provide more details.
Yeah, I mean, it is the first PR for the client-side support is there at the moment, and the server stuff should come pretty quickly. So I'd expect, probably by sometime next week, we'll have parity on the Python side.
Perfect. Thank you very much. You should trademark like semantic kernel answer to anything is next week, because whenever I ask about super duper advanced feature, the answer is usually, next week is coming, and it usually does. So well done.
And it usually
really
does. That's
it.
the important part, Evgeny, that it usually does.
Exactly. Sorry, I'm not. I'm traveling today, so I'm essentially dialing from the hotel room. Thank you. And the second question I had, consumption of the MCP in semantic kernel. I believe it's again next week.
Can you repeat the question, sir? I missed.
When can we expect to be able to use MCP in semantic kernel?
So like semantic kernel is a client for MCP.
That is correct. Yes.
I think on the C# side, I think Sergey, you showed that last week or the week before. On the Python side, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's what's gonna ship first is semantic kernel as a client on the Python side.
Yeah. So that's actually, there's a PR open for at the moment. It's being reviewed. Okay. So the next release of Python will include it, So.
Perfect. Thank you very much. My questions are answered.
Yeah, and a few more words. So that sample, which I showed bits and pieces of, is available in the semantic kernel samples. I'll share a link to that in a moment. And on top of that, we are also working on the sample demonstrating how you can use MCP prompts, so that you will create MCP prompt on the server side using semantic kernel, and on the client side, you will be able to access that MCP prompt using semantic kernel as well. So that's it for me for demo. Thank you very much.
Great. Roger, did you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. I can jump in. So let me share my screen really quick here now. Okay. Please just confirm if you can see my screen. Amazing. So pretty much the latest change that is coming for semantic kernel is to make your agents smart and be able to talk using audio as an input and audio as an output. With the latest audio preview models from OpenAI GPT-4, now you can send audio in the chat history and get back audio as well in the chat history. So with this implementation, that we just got merged, there is a demonstrations in our samples, which I'm going through as well. If you go, currently it's for C#, and we are bringing this parity to Python as well. But here in samples, you can see this implementation in this chat completions with the OpenAI audio, which I'll be kind of demonstrating how you're gonna use now. So pretty much all you have to do is having a recorded wave type file in your side. In this case, I made a recording in my machine, which I can play really quick as what will be my prompt against the AI model. So pretty much I'm asking to generate a poetic message
Hey,
about
hey
the
Roger,
sun.
we couldn't hear that audio, but we'll just trust you that it was amazing.
Yeah. The audio is about generating a poetic message about the sun. I'm not sure if I can share the audio. Share sound, I think. Let me see if you can hear now. Let me play it again. Hey, I can generate me a poetic message about the sun. Could you hear that?
Yes.
Perfect. So I just recorded this audio, and what all I had to do is get the bytes of the audio provided in the code. So this line, I'm getting the bytes. I'm creating all the normal semantic kernel code here with the chat completion service, and I'm creating now in the execution settings. Now you have two extra properties in the OpenAI specific one, which you can ask what will be the voice that the AI will generate for you, and what is the format that you want the AI to output for you as well, and what type of modalities the model are going to support. So for this sample, I'm enabling the audio and text as well. And all you have to do is make your normal chat history, and now you can add a content, which now we call audio content, and you provide the bytes of your audio. With that, the result will be generated audio output of the model with the result. So if I run this prompt here, let me run this example, for example, debug. Let me run this really quick here. And I will be providing exactly the audio that I recorded. Should be very straightforward. And one observation here is that for getting this modality capability of audio in and audio out, currently the OpenAI provides this specific model, GPT-4o audio dash preview, and that model allows you to have this specific capability. We believe that that will be preview for now, but eventually will be a GA version provided by them. So this is pretty much the execution. I'm just going through the execution on the settings, setting the chat history with the prompt, with the system prompt, adding the audio to the user message. I'm not using prompt, no text in the user message, just the audio content. And I'm getting the result back, just waiting the model to generate the result here. And the curious thing about it is once the model generates the result is also an audio content in the result, basically. So you don't have a text content, but you have an audio content in the result. So here I'm capturing what is the audio reply from the model, and I'm saving that reply, which is binary information, in the audio output.mp3. MP3 because I ask in the configuration what is the type. If you look up here, I'm setting this to be an MP3 file. It could be other types as well. So if the file exists, you delete and then recreate the file on my environment. And the generated file audio will be outputted as a text result. And the model also provides you the transcript together with what was the audio file. So I'm just finishing to run the test here. And this is green. And if I go into the details of this test, let me open a little bit larger. So actually, that is the output. Anyways, I can look at the output for some reason. Open test log. Okay, here is the output. I will double click here. And
in the tender embrace of dawn, the sun rises like a golden muse, tenderly painting the canvas of the morning sky.
So this is the model also generating me the audio output in the same at once. So, and they give you also the transcript of what is generated. So this capability will come in the next semantic kernel release, and you'll be able to use audio input and audio output in your agents with chat history. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you. Questions? Yeah, that's me.
Great, thanks, Roger. That was awesome. We will get both those blogs from Sergey and Roger published real soon now. I can't promise exactly when, because it's mainly on me. I think it's we can now open it up if there's any questions in general that folks have around semantic kernel or things they want to share. Now we're into the general Q&A portion of the call. So please raise your hand or put something in the chat. Jevon, go ahead. Come on.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, by the way, it's pronounced as Jeevan.
Jeevan. Perfect.
Jeevan, yep.
2 E's.
Yep.
I should have known that. I'm sorry.
So, Sean and Roger, this is, directly not a semantic kernel thing, but kind of related to the Azure OpenAI library, right? Kind of ran into an odd, issue with that. So not sure if I can, if it's a good place to just kind of bring it up and see if somebody else has kind of run into that. If you all are okay, I would like to kind of, share what I've, ran into.
Go for it.
Yeah, so the issue that I kind of ran into is when I'm kind of doing streaming, right? By default, the library now gives you the consumption, right? The token consumption in streaming, as the last, the last packet, right? But if by any chance the input had an image inside it, right, then what I did see is that the library does not return the token consumption, even though you have your streaming options to return usage. So just curious if somebody else had kind of run into this. I did open up an issue on the Azure SDK GitHub with a sample, but hadn't kind of gotten any traction on that.
Anything anyone wants to add on that, or any suggestions? Do you have a link to the issue that you opened?
Oh, yes, I do. Yeah, I do have that. Yeah, I just post it in the in the chat. Yeah, it seems to work with all. If there is no image, it just works wonderfully. You get your token consumption. It is the moment your input has an image inside it, it just doesn't return.
Yeah, I think this may be more. Folks from Semantic Kernel want to take a quick look. This looks like this may be more of an Azure SDK issue, like you mentioned. And I see on here it's got people that I recognize as the right people to look at it. I see Travis and so on here. So I think you're in the right hands. Although it looks like it hasn't been touched in a month. Maybe I'll do you a little favor and I'll ping those folks offline here and see what the latest is.
Hey, that would be awesome.
And Jeevan, just a question. Did you try to look at the underlying request and response to Azure OpenAI?
Yes, it does. It does return that. Yes, it does. It is just that when the library, when you throw the library on top of it, is when that gets lost.
Which means that like the underlying Azure SDK returning the consumption numbers, while semantic kernel doesn't support that.
Yeah, not semantic kernel, but this Azure OpenAI package, right? That doesn't return that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, one thing that I know, just jumping really quick, is that they have a condition in their repo for not giving back the usage when there is an image in that is intentional there. I'm not sure why they keep that there, but it's a good question to ask. Thanks for bringing this.
Yeah, it would be awesome. Yeah, the reasoning behind it, at least if there is a reasoning behind it, why would love to kind of understand that. But yeah, again, I was expecting it to kind of bubble that information, given that as Sergey was asking, hey, does the underlying API return it? Yeah, it does. It is just that the library doesn't seem to bubble that up.
One thing similar thing is just like I remember I was need to get some data about the reason why my prompt got rejected about content safety service. And like I was looking at the response which was returned by the Azure SDK, but like there was nothing there. But then I've discovered with Roger help that like there isn't a special extension method on that Azure OpenAI library that you can call and get that data. So maybe they went the same way with this image token consumption, just providing you like a static extension method on the response so that like you can call it and get that required data. But again, I'm not sure about it. It's just like, that's what I know about this content safety thing. So I'm thinking that they maybe implemented it for the token consumption of images.
Yeah. Any help to kind of, get some more details would be super appreciated, Roger, Sean.
Yeah, of course. Evgeny, I see your hand up.
Just wanted to reiterate very short moment when I said that, hey, it's usually next week. I say in my world, it's super fast because my customers are used to months, 3 months, 4 months. So 1 week doesn't register. So for me, it's like almost immediate. Impossible. We deliver immediate. Miracles require 24-hour notice. That's what my experience with Semantic Kernel has been so far.
That's
So
the way
thank
I
you very
interpret it
much.
as well. And like, thank you for the compliment. It is something we take pride in on this team, is being able to react and ship very quickly, and we've set the team up for that. Obviously the balance there is that we do ship a lot of stuff in preview, and we do like to reserve the right to to change things if we need to while things are in the preview state. But that is kind of one of the reasons we want to exist and continue to build on top of Semantic Kernel so that we can be agile. As you all know, like, every week there's something new that comes out in this space. And you guys want to be able to try it and evaluate it within within your applications as soon as possible. So that's what we're trying to do with that. And we appreciate, I'll just turn around, it's like we really appreciate the feedback, and certainly the signal of like, oh, like we really like this, and if you guys try things when they're in preview and give us feedback, that really gives us the opportunity to build a great product, and we do move those things to a more stable level. Raj, go ahead.
Yeah. So my question is on the MCP server. So it's my lack of understanding. So there has to be a host for an MCP server, right? So when we are deploying these solutions in the cloud, let's say I'm leveraging Azure Functions where I run some of these things. So where would you host the MCP server? Because every example that I see is that you're running on the client, and either you have a cloud desktop or you're hosting it on Visual Studio. So if you have to have a central place of MCP servers where you want to host them, how would you do that?
So the sample I showed
is Sergey, if you want to take that one in a second, but I'll shout out a little bit of kind of context on top of that. I think generally speaking, like most MCP servers today, deploying them down locally and they're hosted locally in the same context as the application. There are some parts of the MCP spec that are starting to come online around SSE and HTTP remote calling, where they're specifically hosted as a server. Sergey, anything you want to add there?
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say as well. Just like there is SSE protocol, which presumes that like your client can do a HTTP request to MCP REST API MCP server that is supposed to expose get and post endpoints, as far as I remember, which will be the endpoint that MCP client will use in order to talk to the server. Meanwhile, the sample I showed using STD input-output protocol, which means that when you create an instance of a client will kind of like a discovering service and create basically loading it in its own in the client process, and basically both client and server running inside the same process. And the communication between those two happens using the standard input-output protocol.
Yeah, because these things are cool for demo, but they're all just running on their own desktop and then doing this. But if I'm deploying a production solution in the cloud, where like, I could have a web application and I could have a serverless function or an API where I'm running this. Where does the MCP host server run if in that scenario?
Yeah. So I'll send you a link to the sample I saw in the MCP GitHub repo, showing how you can create that REST API service that will serve your MCP client. And
okay, so that I can host, that I can deploy to, for example, an Azure PaaS service or an API server and deploy it there.
Yep.
Because I don't see any of the URL for that MCP server. Like, so even in the semantic client, what is it has to be in process for it to, right? But there's no URL where I could say, like for example, I want to add another MCP server to it and then be able to talk to it, but there is no URL. It's all kind of in process through ID that I connect. Right?
Yeah, so as Sean mentioned, and as I said as well, so there are like a few protocols. One of them, STD input output, which presume that the server will be loaded in the client process. And there is also SSC protocol, which presume like a RESTful communication between client and server.
Okay. And is it possible to have a container where we could have this MCP server and then put it in the Azure container registry?
I think in this case, you will need to use SSC protocol, which is REST protocol, because otherwise, I mean, just like as standard input output protocols, like presume that like you need to have a server inside the same process, and running your server in a container, it will be impossible for a client to load that server into the same process.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just add to that. I'm trying to see if there's a public blog on some of that right now. I think a lot of this will go through. Yeah, I'll drop it through Azure API management is probably a good way to do this. And I will also add, stay tuned. Microsoft is betting pretty big on MCP. We like MCP. And there'll probably be some announcements in the space in the next few days. Tyler.
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to that answer for Raj. It sounds like most of what you were asking about were really sort of like app architecture concerns in terms of how your applications communicate, where they're hosted, just a sort of logical architecture of your application more generally. And I'd say, so MCP is not a new, like, over-the-wire communication protocol, really. It's a supplemental layer on top of JSON RPC. It is fundamentally built on JSON RPC. So it follows that JSON RPC protocol standard, which means any communication protocol that you use, HTTP, HTTPS, TCP even, you can utilize MCP over that wire, over that communication protocol. So what that means is typically wherever you would host a server, a service, let's say you have an API that serves up responses to queries, like you have a data access layer, let's say, and an API around that serves up answers to queries. That API service, wherever you would host that, you would still host that. It's just that now, instead of a data access layer, we have this sort of inference layer where we're asking questions and getting responses back. So wherever you would traditionally host your data access layer, it's kind of the same as hosting this inference layer with MCP.
Okay,
it's the exact same traditional concerns.
Okay, so like, for example, in all of my in my applications, I run all of them as either a Python Azure function, serverless function, or
Mhm.
.NET, function, durable functions. Now, will I be able to host in the Azure Functions within this the MCP server as well?
Well, that's a little bit tricky for Azure Functions specifically because you need a durable, persistent connection in order to host that JSON RPC endpoint. JSON RPC, because it is an RPC two-way communication protocol, you
Okay.
need an open, persistent endpoint. And you can do that with functions, but they aren't really meant for that, right? They're usually for short-term, cold start, just those kind of processes. But you can emulate that with durable functions that are hot and live. So you can emulate that with Azure Functions. I would not recommend it.
Okay.
That was great, Tyler. Are you interested in writing some docs about MCP? That was a good explanation.
Actually, yeah, I'm one of the contributors to that project, so I'm working on that as we speak. But yeah, feel free to point me in any direction where you want some documentation. Happy to provide.
Yeah. I think my take on MCP is like this is, for those of you that have been in the industry for a while, this is a rodeo we've been to many times, kind of building this kind of thing. And I think it's really interesting now with kind of the AI flavor on top of it. But there's a lot of work to do in the space to kind of add things around security and remote access to MCP. And I think those will kind of be coming very quickly. And we're going to live in a brave new world soon of agents being able to have thousands of tools and giant catalogs of tools to be able to access access real services in a way that just wasn't possible before, wasn't easy. So I'm pretty excited about that. Any other questions or topics anyone would like to bring up?
I have one more. I think the last session, the coming together of extensions in AI and semantic kernel is a great step. And I tried it, and it works now. So I can have a transient client with the iChat client. But somebody said that it's even going to be simpler, where without having to do that, you could natively. Is that something that you're still working on, Sean, with Louis?
I'm not sure if you have more details of kind of specifically. I think we're continuing to work closely with that team, and I think both of us feel very strongly that we want to make that experience, as simple and seamless as possible. So yeah, if you have something specific, we can kind of follow up on that. I think kind of where we are in terms of the flow with that team is they're moving towards stabilizing that API. We've done a fair bit of work there with especially on the vector data space, and we'll continue to do that. It'll take a little bit of time for us to kind of rewire everything in Semantic Kernel to support that. But that is definitely the direction that we're heading. So anything where there's a rough edge, love to hear about it. It's something that we can make sure we prioritize, but all those things are a matter of time until we smooth them out. Not a long-term thing.
Yeah, I just put it in the chat window. This is how now I added that iChat completion, but instead of the lambda expression, I thought Louis said that it'll be even simpler to add that iChat client dependency injection. So that's the one that, yeah.
Yeah, it could be. I don't know if anyone on the team, Roger, so you thumbs up to. I think I know you're working on that. If that's something that's going to get simpler. I will say, by the way, Roger, before you come on, I think we are going to have someone from the extensions team join our call about once a month. So if you have questions about that specifically, save them up for Luis or someone else from the team who may be joining regularly now.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump really quick in here. So basically, the Microsoft extension on this AI will be in a lower level than semantic kernel. So we'll be fully supporting as natively their types. So regarding this example that you just gave, add transient chat completions, the same way we you do today with add chat completions, add OpenAI chat completions, or any other provider. You have a add OpenAI chat client similarly to add your chat client, and Semantic Kernel will be understanding all of those types natively as well. So this is an ongoing process. We are I'm currently working on that feature branch, exactly adding this capability and that being transparent without you needing to convert your EMEA types to semantic kernel and vice versa. So that will be in plan to semantic kernel already discover and find those types when you have them. That's it.
Okay, thanks.
Great. Anything else for anyone this week?
Sean, I saw there's some questions on the chat as well.
Okay, I will go through those. The chat is not loading for me, so maybe if you can.
I can read some of it. There's one from Eileen Pan. I will ask my question again. Do we have an example of a distributed agent system where some agents run in local computer and some agents run in a server, like Azure Cloud environment, or could this be implemented?
I don't know if we have a sample for that. I've done a demo of it. We have a sample that shows it with semantic kernel, not with our agent framework. I'll see if I can find it. There's a sample that shows using different service IDs for for a local model versus a cloud model. That's not necessarily separate agents, but I think what you're mentioning certainly should be possible. To have one agent that's running on locally and one's running in the cloud. One of the challenges with like running agents locally right now is not all of the local models support tool use, and that's something that's fairly important for being productive with local agents. There are a few models that do. Llama 3.2 does. The new Phi model, Phi 4. Mini supports tool calling, and so that'd be something to look at there as well. Anything anyone would like to add onto that? Hopefully that helps.
Yeah, I thought that we had a group chat sample that had a local chat completion agent with some other cloud-based agents. Let me look for it and see if I can find it.
Thanks, Ben. Any other question on the chat? Sorry, it's not loading for me. My webcam, and I think maybe Teams is slow to wake up this morning.
I think all the others were answered in the chat itself. But yeah, if we missed anything, just put it in the chat again or raise your hand and let us know.
Some of these multi-agent examples with the release candidate 2, are they going to be rewritten or modified? Because a lot of these older examples are on the previous release, with the new agent messaging thread and all that. Are they going to be modified or?
I think most of them have. If you are seeing some that aren't, please drop them in the chat. We want to get those updated as soon as possible if there's some that haven't been yet.
Okay, thanks. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Tyler, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
I come off mute. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, so I was curious, for the case of local agents where tool invocation is seemingly necessary, and in consideration of semantic kernel planners being deprecated, what is the pattern there? How do you get effectively tool invocation for?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. It's one that I think we're trying to figure out right now. Like maybe planners need to come back. I think what we've seen is, models that have auto invocation perform much better if that's used instead of planners. And I think the trend we were seeing is that like the vast majority of cloud models were supporting that. So I think the thing that we're looking at is the same thing going to happen with local models, where it's just a point in time and very soon all the models will support tool calling? Or is this a case where we should be maybe bringing planners back and reevaluating them in a world where things like structured data are now supported and JSON output are now supported, which might make the planners work quite a bit better. I'm really interested in folks' feedback on that and thoughts on that, if that's something that is interesting to them, or if they've had some success maybe using planners locally. Really interested in hearing that. I think that's something that's top of mind for us for sure.
Wonderful. I do know that the Microsoft Extensions AI package enables structured output, but doesn't necessarily have to use that feature from cloud providers. I know the guidance LLM library emulates that with logic biasing, and that seems to be a reliable technique for local models as well. So I was curious if there's potentially an opportunity there to implement actually structured output to find those named tools that are registered, even if tool auto function invocation isn't natively available.
Yeah, I think so. The guidance is great. That's actually what a lot of the cloud models are using. And so that might be an interesting approach, is to integrate guidance when it's needed locally.
Yeah. Okay. Well, great to hear. Thank you.
I see some feedback on planners from Han. Thank you, everyone. Okay, I think with that, I will call it for the week. Thank you, everyone, for your feedback. Definitely stay in touch. And I'll put up the usual slide here. Feel free to please take a look at the GitHub repo. I think, like Raj mentioned, that's where all our samples live. We have been refreshing them for the agent framework RC2. So there are a lot of new samples, and a lot of them are updated with some of the changes that we've made. So please do take a look. Let us know if we missed anything. If there are some that haven't been updated yet, please let us know so that we can make sure that happens ASAP. As well as on the repo and the samples directory, our documentation is also being refreshed right now. So please let us know if there's something that's amiss. Always reach out. We will fix those as soon as possible. And then we'll see you again next week, if not sooner, for our office hours. All right. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.